and welcome to episode 77 of the It's Just a Hill Cycling Podcast. I am John, and today I am here with return guest, member of It's Just a Hill, Norlan Olivo.
Hello.
Hi, Norlan. Thank you for coming. Thank you for tipping your cap to the podcast, or maybe to your own introduction.
Both.
It's been a little bit since the last time you've been on the podcast.
My God, it might have been...
Is it 2 years?
No, I think it was last
year?
Last around
tour.
the tour, I think we were doing a bunch of episodes.
So about a year ago. Yeah. What have you been up to since you've been following professional cycling?
Yes, I have. Following professional cycling, kind of working out my own cycling
your
schedule,
cycling journey.
My cycling journey.
Yep. We'll talk about that in a bit. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things, maybe nutrition, coaching, time crunch training.
Yeah.
This Marfa ride, which I think you've done before. You're going to be doing that again.
Yes.
Right? And so how about first? You want to talk about being a time crunched cyclist? You want to talk about that first?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're sort of in let's say the meat of the cycling season, right? Especially here in New England, right?
Yep.
We sort of have
weather-wise.
like a good, weather-wise, it's nice, right?
Yeah.
Middle of June. What's a typical week look like for you on the bike? Or what are you getting in for riding, and like what are you trying to get to? Like, are you meeting those goals? What's sort of what's sort of the status quo right now for you and riding your bike?
Man, that's kind of the thing. It's one of those things where it's like I love cycling and riding so much.
Yeah.
But I'm also like an artist and I own a club and
right.
I like to make a lot of work and I also need to take care of the club. So it's one of those things where like it's hard. I go back and forth between making it a time-based thing and a mileage-based thing.
Okay.
But I feel like somehow that's just not the same. Like it could be very different. You could spend could spend 5 different types of hours on the bike that could equate to such different mileage and stuff. So right now I think, but I say that, but I feel like the best way to spend, I feel like my time as someone who's a little bit crunched would be time. Like,
I think so too.
Because you commit, you can do miles and it's like, you can feel whatever about it. But if you just like every week I do this amount of time and I dedicate
5
that
hours,
to it.
10 hours, whatever it is, right? I mean, it's still either can be a lot, especially we talked about pro cycling for a second in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest sort of hang-ups with amateur cyclists like us is comparing ourselves to pros.
Yeah.
Not only the way that they ride, but the amount that they ride. It's just not tangible for people like us.
Yeah.
And, like you mentioned, you've got other shit going on. It's not just bikes. To me, I learned maybe 3 or 4 years ago that, like, time was way more of the essence, for lack of a better term, than mileage.
Yeah.
Because, like you're saying, it can be an hour hard, an hour easy. It could be an hour in a flat area, so you're hitting more miles in that hour versus like hilly stuff, And so to me, I've been focusing more on hourly goals. Do you have like a weekly hourly goal right now?
Right now it's probably between 5 and 8 hours, but I feel like it could easily be 10.
Yep.
But again, and then there's a thing of like, doing a race or trying to prepare for something.
Yeah, right.
And then you kind of almost realize it's one of those things. It's almost, it's not like this is just cycling. It's kind of like everything. Like if you want to make art or if you want to do podcasts or whatever, if you don't practice or schedule around that, then I feel like it suffers. The difference is with cycling is that I feel like even how you eat.
Yeah, true.
Right? Because now you can't go out and drink at certain times if you want to. If you like get destroyed and then you wake up the next day and try to do like a zone 2 for like an hour and a half, you're like, oh man, I feel like trash right now.
Right, because you own and manage a nightclub.
Yeah, but I don't drink as much.
Yeah, but still, but the hours being out late at night.
Yeah.
Right? And like not only is it nutrition, but like sleeping is important. Yeah. When you're trying to do like endurance, any sort of endurance athleticism, right? And so... yeah, like I personally find it more... I find it better on my mental psyche if I ride early in the day. Because otherwise I'm like anxious about having to ride.
Right.
But if you're out late at night, you're valuing sleep a lot more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're like, no, I'm sleeping in till fucking 10 or 11
what do you think
out.
would be your schedule? You think you wake up at the same time every day regardless if you're cycling or not? Or you think it changes if you're doing a ride?
If I could, I would. But my schedule with work is so like different.
Yeah.
There is no consistency.
Yeah.
I think I'd be a little bit better off if I had the consistency. I like being a freelance contractor that can sort of do shit like this on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I worked yesterday. You know, like I had a shoot day yesterday, and I got some work done this morning, like whether it's sending in invoices or like writing things for future jobs, whatever it is. You know, but I do think that like I would probably be better off with consistency, like waking up at, let's say, like 6 a.m. every day, getting up, eating something, doing some yoga, going out and riding, and then coming back. Yeah. It's just like, I don't know, the weather sort of influences a little bit. We had a weird spring where like May wasn't as nice as it should have been.
Also, it's been, I don't know, this has to be the rainiest.
Yeah, it's been mad rainy.
Like year ever in the history of New England. Like, this is crazy.
It's like constantly overcast, and people who do have like traditional 9-to-5 jobs are noticing that it's like, not only is it rainy lately, but it's like every weekend.
Yeah,
it's literally been like consistently
every single weekend.
weekend rain.
If you're at 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
you've hated this year.
Yeah, you've hated it. And there are like, I've seen memes and shit on Instagram about it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, another New England weekend, and we're, you know, it's going to rain from Saturday morning until Sunday evening. So I think that's hard. You know, like getting a consistent, like, okay, I'm going to do every Monday's an off day, and every Tuesday is like, you know, whatever. I don't find that. To me, it's more about looking at like maybe what I did the week prior, and then how to like ramp up from there. Or if I've been ramping up for 3 to 5 weeks in a row. Hey, stop it. If I've been ramping up for 3 to 5 weeks in a row, making sure you're taking like a week off. You know?
Right. Yeah. I've tried. I think that's been my downfalls. I try to do, I mean, besides doing obviously like a zone 2 or something that's more like structured indoor on the trainer, it gets hard to do the other stuff because, you know, you can do the indoor trainer stuff whether it's raining or doing whatever, and you know that's like your day and you can do it in this time. But the other stuff, like you said, it's like weather, you got something came up with work, and now your whole kind of schedule is like a little bit shifted. And then there's also, not for nothing, but there's also kind of just like working out regularly, doing some yoga or some weights or some stuff that's going to help your core and help you on the bike and stuff. And that sort of stuff can get hard to mix in, I think, as well. Yeah,
especially like, you know, when you're looking, you see yourself, you know, from an artist perspective, right? If you get inspired to create something, you want to fucking take that inspiration and run with it, right? Whether it's going out and taking photos or editing or painting something or whatever that is, right? And so that's almost like you can't really schedule around that type of, you know, like I find whether it's editing the podcast or vlogs or doing whatever the fuck sort of creative endeavor I have going on, you know, like passion project wise, like if I'm like, oh no, now's the time. And sure, that has a little bit to do with me, like, you know, having issues focusing on things or whatever, but I don't know. It does seem hard. I think 5 to 8 hours a week though is solid for someone who's like trying to reach a goal. I think they're probably, when there is limited time, the more that time is limited, the more structure is important. Do you know what I mean? So like if you're saying, hey, I only have an hour to ride today, make sure that hour is as worth it as possible. Yeah. You know, and I guess it depends on like what your goals are. You know, I know that you're sort of training for this Marfa ride. Can we talk about that? Is that sort of like your big goal for the season and what you're looking towards?
Yeah, I mean, we did it. I think we did it oh my God, almost 3 years ago. It takes place in October. It's in Marfa, Texas. It's like they use the money to like support the town's like firefighter and local stuff like that. So that's really cool. But yeah, and it's like a 60 or 70 mile ride in October, and then maybe like 2 to 3K climbing or something. It's not like this crazy, insane ride, but
still, you want to be in good shape for it, right? You want to be at peak fitness.
Last time I did it, it was like I'd have to pull up my times to see. But the idea is to just do it again and do it better than I did last time. And mind you, I think the last time I did it, I remember being on the plane or something and like posting that I was going to do it. And you were like, what's this about? And I was like, I don't know. My friend found it. We're just going to go out and do it. I have never been in a bike race. I've probably been like riding my bike for like 6 months to maybe
yeah. You
at
were
the
like,
time.
I'm gonna go and do this.
Like I was just like fresh to cycling. I remember not eating during the ride. I remember like being like, and now in retrospect, I'm like, man, I could crush that time.
Yeah. What was your training like leading up to it? Like, were you doing specific training or no? You were just like
riding my bike.
You were just riding. Yeah. Which I mean, I think is good. You know, like I think there's a lot.
Like I didn't know shit about zone 2. I know nothing about intervals. I know nothing about.
You didn't know what heart rate was sustainable.
I don't even think I had a heart rate monitor.
Sure.
I just went and did the thing. And it was like, whoa, that was hard.
So you want to approach it from just a little bit more of a structured approach, right?
For sure.
You don't necessarily think you're going to go out and win. Or is it a race or is it just an event? Or
That's a great, I guess technically like it is a race. Like they do keep times and they do give away awards. I think I was like top 5 in my age bracket.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know.
Let's go top 3 this year.
Yeah.
That's a good goal.
I mean, that would be fire.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think I'm also in a different age bracket this year.
Yes, we're getting older.
I'm 33. I'm old. It's over. No. So that would be sick.
Yes.
My goal is to do better than last year. Top 3 in like the thing would be fire. And then like,
some of the lessons you learned where you don't think you were eating enough because you didn't eat it all during the ride.
I didn't eat it all. Probably before, like what to do the day before.
Yep.
I probably wasn't like stretching as much or, eating. I think we like went to Marfa's cool. Went to a bar.
Yeah,
just
sure.
like drinking beers and stuff. Yeah. Which again, like all this stuff makes me think, I'm like, man, like we did pretty okay for not knowing jack shit about anything.
Yeah, but still, if you're trying to just like have a weekend away and like party and ride your bike, though, that's like perfully valid.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you're going to a new place.
Yeah.
You want to fucking, oh, sweet, they got Tecate on tap. You know what I mean? Like I fucking love Marfa, Texas, you know? Is it sort of middle of nowhere, Texas? Is it right outside of Austin?
Like you gotta fly to somewhere in Texas and then take a little plane and then take like a 3-hour like drive to Marfa. It's like that. I mean, I think the closest town, it's like maybe it's El Paso or something that's like 3 or 4 hours away. Oh, okay. So it's not very close to a lot. Yeah.
And you're going out with the same friend this year?
Yeah, and I think another friend is going to join us. Last time we went, it was just 2 of us, and now there'll be 3. I mean, then they're both like 6 foot something, which is just really funny. I think like team, if we're like thinking about it as a team, because when we did go last time, there's a lot of teams. Like they were just like pulling for each other and stuff, and I'm like, this is a charity race. Like,
no, I know, and that's such a funny thing too that like I sort of struggle with wrapping my head around is like people like us riding in a team and like riding for other people. You know what I mean? Like who are you kidding? Like, why am I going to ride for you or why would you ride for me? It's good to ride together.
Exactly.
And to help each other to the finish line.
Yeah.
But to be like, all right, here's the train. I'm going to pull. And then, like, Brian's going to pull off. And then, like, we're going to make sure Norlan's set up for the sprint.
Meanwhile, there's, like, a bunch of, like, 65-year-olds just doing the race because they live in the town.
Right, they live around there.
It's like,
exactly. Right. They're part of, like, a, and so it's funny when, like, that sort of attitude comes to, like, these events. I mean, I've ridden events before that weren't races at all, and then people who win set up their own like podium at the end to, like,
my god,
you know what I mean, because they're like, well, I came in first. It's like, yeah, well, everyone wasn't racing, like
it's also like it was like in retrospect, like watching cycling more and also getting into it like the last 3 or 4 years, I was like, man, they really just sent like the breakaway and they closed it, and I'm like, yes. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, I didn't know that back then, obviously, like 3 or 4 years ago. But now in retrospect, I'm like, wow, they were really serious about this. Like
that was happening at Marfa.
I'm almost
like breakaways
these
were
guys
going
were like up the road, and then everybody was just. And I remember like
sort of neutralizing the peloton.
Yeah, like the first 10 minutes, like I have energy, and I went up, and then everybody was like going up, and I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is insane. So,
how many people do it?
That's a great question. I feel like the last time it might have been like 100 plus 200 people. Like it's a lot of people, a lot of different age brackets and stuff.
You travel with your bike?
I did, and that was a crazy experience. Yeah, too, putting it in a case and taking stuff apart and being scared that
I find that a little bit nerve wracking myself.
TSA is gonna throw your shit. Like,
you put it in a hard case, soft case.
I put it in a hard case, and I put Saran wrap. I was like, bro. I break this bike. Then again, it did have warranty, but we were both like, what the fuck? This is crazy.
I know, because you don't, even though you have a warranty, you don't want to show up to the place with a broken fork or a bent
then you don't know
disc.
any bike shops, and you don't know any, like, this is just, it's crazy. I might actually take a train to drive this time, but that's also crazy, so.
Yeah, I love the train thing. I took the train back from DC.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
It was so easy, dude.
You didn't have to pack your bike?
Nah. It rolled on with me. It was an extra $20. That's the other thing. Flying with a bike's not cheap. If you ship it, it's $200. If you bring it as luggage, it's like an extra $100, $200, depending on the airline.
Yeah. And again, DC back to the east is like a
It's
feasible train.
It's a 7-hour train.
Like, this is like a 2-hour train.
Yeah, right.
To Texas or something.
Yeah,
like
right.
2 days.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, that is essentially the goal, I think, if anything, for this year, because I've kind of had a up and down. I was really riding a lot in the winter, and then I kind of had like injuries and health stuff, and it was, so now I'm just kind of getting back to kind of
but still plenty of time if it's in October.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? That's like 4 months away.
Yeah, for sure.
That's plenty of time to like get your legs back under you. Maybe just do mostly sort of endurance riding and then a little bit of structured training. To, ramp up, and then have like sort of a taper week, if you will, right? On the, so sort of like, 5 hours a week, and then like 8 hours a week, maybe a couple of 10-hour weeks in like early September or something.
I was thinking of tapering also, like doing one ride a week. So it's like, getting used to doing I do 20 miles for 2 weeks, just one ride. Yeah. And obviously other stuff around that. And then the next 2 weeks, it'll be 30 until I reach the amount of miles that like the Marfa race in. So I'm used to riding.
Sure. For 3 hours, for or 3.5, 4 hours.
Yeah, without being like, oh my God, this is so much longer than
what you've done in the past year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even though, I've done a few long rides, I think with you guys and with Brian, or I think I rode to the Cape with the same people that I'm going with, and that's 80, 90 miles or whatever. But getting your body and your legs used to it, like increasing the threshold that your body is used to, I think is like
even mentally, to be like, I did a 4-hour ride last month. Yeah. I know I can at least survive. I think to me, mentally, like that's a big thing. In the winter when I don't do as many endurance rides, then I'm like, all right, I'm going to do my first like century in March or April.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh fuck, I'm going to be out there for 6 hours. I haven't done this in a little while, and you sort of like you start to doubt yourself, even if you're had a great night's sleep or you're eating the right things and stuff. You know. So I think like mentally and physically, that seems like a good approach to it. Have you ever had a coach? Have you ever messed with a coach?
No, it's funny. Like I've always ridden bikes, obviously not with like such intent, and I've always kind of like worked out or played sports and stuff, but I never really had like, an active
direct prescribed training.
Yeah, you should do this. This is what you should eat before and after the ride. This is how much zone 2 you should be doing. Is zone 2 even a thing? Is it just about going hard? I don't know. So yeah, like what? All right, let's say you have seven hours a week.
Yep, 7 hours a week.
And you're trying to train for this thing, this like 70-mile bike ride, whatever, a few months away in October. What would you do just off rip, just to start?
Well, let me ask you one follow-up question.
Go.
What's in that 7 hours for the week? What do you think the longest ride you can accomplish is on any one day? 2 hours? 3 hours?
Probably 2 to 3, yeah.
Probably 2 to 3.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest is 1 2 to 3 hour Z2 endurance ride.
Yep.
Where it's conversational pace. It's not so low that your heart rate is at like 110.
Yep.
But your heart rate's maybe around 130, 140 or so. If you have a power meter, maybe we can talk about those numbers too. Do you run a power meter? Yeah, you do. And then I would suggest one like hard ride a week, 1 hour long. Yep. So if you're doing
like you're just trying to crush it, go as fast as you can.
Hour of power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hour of power. Maybe you warm up for 10 minutes if you need that.
Yep.
I think some days mentally I really need that. Like my legs feel a little bit heavy. They feel groggy. I'm not leaving my driveway and hammering most days.
Also, like where I ride in the city, it's also like you almost got to get out, and then you can crush and come back and almost like cool down again.
So that seems pretty good.
Yeah.
That seems like a good approach. It takes you 10, 15 minutes to get out, right? Then you can hammer for 40 minutes and then cool down for another 10 to 15 at the end. So that's what I would suggest, like one endurance ride, longer endurance ride, 2 to 3 hours a week, 1 hour of power ride a week. And then those other 3 rides, let's say you're splitting up those 7 hours into 5 days of riding.
Yep.
One of them a true recovery ride.
Yep.
So really like zone 1, that
just chilling.
Heart rate is at 110, almost like painfully slow, like because that does really help. And I mean, you can substitute that with like a long walk, you know, like a 40-minute walk, an hour-long walk or something, you know. But to me, it always feels a little bit better to have my legs actually turning over. It feels like it keeps like the cobwebs out.
Right. And the motion of being on the bike
being on the bike and being able to like, you know, because like if you're on the bike and you're trying to maintain like, let's say an efficient sort of aero position, you know, you're sort of leaned over.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned before, maybe you're doing some weight stuff so that you're helping your core because like that goes a long way too.
Yeah.
And then, so 1 endurance ride, 1 hard ride, and 1 recovery ride. And those other 2 days are just an hour at zone 2.
Yeah.
I think zone 2, I mean, you know, it has become...
It's funny. People, it's almost, I feel like there used to be so much zone 2 talk.
Yes.
And now there's just less zone 2 and more just do really hard rides and also rest, but still work in. It's almost like the opposite. Most people are now switching to doing the opposite of like
I agree.
What you're saying. And that just doesn't feel, I'm like, if you're busting your ass every time and you're always fatigued, it's not.
Especially if you have other shit going on.
Yeah.
You know, like if
that might work for like a pro who that's all they're doing and that's 100%. Their aim,
they're getting off the bike and they're getting a massage and someone's giving them like tart cherry juice right away. They're gonna go lay down for the rest of the day. You know what I mean, with their legs elevated. But it's not reality. You know. So those other rides should be rides that like, you know, you end and you're like, oh, that was a good workout. I'm glad I got, you know, some fresh air or whatever. But like, yo, I got to go to the club or like, I'm going to go do other things. I'm going to go hang out with my significant other or my friends are in town or whatever, you know, like.
And that's honestly, that's been one of the hardest. I'm a very try hard at a lot of stuff and realizing that like, I'm just not ever gonna be on Jumbo Visma, or I'm not.
None of us are.
I'm not gonna be on any team and being like, oh, this is just, and thinking about it in that way, like, why do I do this? And being like, oh yeah, because it's like nice and it takes my mind off stuff and it feels good and you feel good after you're doing it, even though there's like pain involved during it and suffering.
Yes,
for the most part, like,
the pain and suffering makes me feel alive. In a way.
Yeah, I
agree.
know
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I do feel sort of like, you know, I'm a cynical person and I feel like numb to things at times, you know? But that sort of escapism is really nice too. Like I'm so inundated with my phone or with, you know, trying to keep up with club stuff on YouTube or whatever, Instagram, all that bullshit. And it seems so, I mean, I do love to do it and I like how much the club has grown, but sometimes I'm like, fuck off, you know, with my phone. And being out on my bike for 5 hours is such a release from that, an escape from that, you know, which is really what I get out of it, I guess.
For sure. And that's kind of where I've come to too. I think when I first started biking, I was so excited to go hard and get stronger. And then I did, and then it's this, and then you realize, you know, and it's kind of like, why am I doing this again? It's like, oh yeah, I just always liked riding my bike and like being, and I think about it now, which is crazy because I've kind of, I think we talked about it. Those little. The shocks. I got some, and I was like, it's kind of crazy that I would do all these rides, and I would just
not listen to music.
And I'm like thinking about it now, and I'm like, I would go crazy. I was like, how did I go crazy?
I know. I can't believe that.
Crazy.
The last episode of the podcast, Brian Caudy was on, and he hasn't been fucking riding his bike. He's been running all the time, but he was saying that he doesn't listen to music at all when he runs. And I'm like, I can't.
That seems different though.
You think it seems easier?
Because there's something, like, I feel like a bike and riding a bike, you go faster and you hear so many more noises.
True.
I think there's probably, and for the record, I hate running.
Yeah, same.
I think you build different if you run and do, that's insane. Like, I just feel like I don't like running unless there's a sport involved. If it's like soccer or basketball, I'm like, all right, let's run. But I'm like, just to run. Yeah. But then I say that to say that, like, it could be probably more meditative. Because you're hearing the same
pat. Yeah.
You know, and you kind of get into this rhythm and you kind of like zone out after a while, probably. Yeah. But
the rhythms in cycling come and go really easy.
Oh yeah,
a climb. You're going up a hill and then you're going down. That rhythm is gone.
Yeah.
And the climbs aren't that long around here anyway. You know, maybe you're going up for 5 minutes, but there still isn't. You know, it's not 1 hour of sort of repetitive.
No. Yeah. Which is definitely running. So I know the music thing has been interesting, but then, you know, again, that meditative state of just not being on a phone or looking at a screen or like you just kind of like zone out and ride and wherever you go and you loop and that makes you feel better.
So you haven't been following a plan. You're sort of just getting out when you can.
Yeah.
Does that, what I'm saying to you, make sense?
Yeah, what you're saying makes like beautiful sense. The only thing that I've consistently done is just like a zone 2 ride a week, 1 or 2, and just
What are the other rides then if they're not zone 2?
They're just going and doing a loop or go again.
Mixed,
I think
whatever.
It's more because I wasn't training for anything and I didn't have a goal in mind, and also I was getting back to it. But it's also like that thing of just like the commitment of time, and then being like, oh, I didn't fucking do it today, and now I'm bummed because I didn't do the thing I was supposed to do on a Wednesday, and now it's Thursday, and now my Thursday thing is on, and just So I just gotta kind of have to not get caught up. And I like riding outside more, and sometimes you just can't because the weather's been crazy. So I'm like, I should just do the rides inside instead of being like, damn, I was gonna go for whatever loop inside. Do you find Zwift to be harder or easier?
So much harder mentally,
but physically, mentally, my goodness, that it's ass compared.
It's so different mentally. Physically, I do find it harder because of the fact that I live in a hilly area. So when I'm outside, what goes up must come down, and you get breaks. On Zwift, there's no break.
Right, and there's physics. You mean like you can coast a lot more.
There's no coasting on Zwift. Right? Yeah. So like this is when I go and I ride with my dad down in Florida.
Yeah.
I consider that like Zwift in real life. Because if you're riding for 3 hours, you're not really coasting.
Right.
As soon as you stop pedaling, you're either getting dropped by the group, or if you're in the front and you stop pedaling, everyone's going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? It's very different.
Yeah.
So I do find it's probably harder in both regards. I never have done much longer than like a 3-hour ride on the trainer.
Yeah.
And that is even rare. I've only done a handful of like 3-hour rides on the trainer, mostly are around an hour or so. But what I do notice is that like in that hour, it is a very productive hour because I'm like, hey, I'm going to set it at 200 watts. I'm going to warm up for 10 minutes, like ramp up, from 100 to 200, do the 200 for an hour and then cool down. That's good, because like your heart rate is probably hitting that sort of, wherever it's going to be, we're at 200 watts, and it's slowly going up the longer that you hold that power, and then you cool down. It's more structured because you're just inside and you're following numbers, And
you're probably, I feel like if I do like a 2 or 3 hour ride outside, I'm probably stopping, I'm taking pictures and stuff. I'm going to a gas station.
Sure. Yep.
On inside, I'm probably just doing the ride.
You're just doing the ride.
Unless I have to pee or something.
Right. And to me, the part that's mentally hard is like, oh, if I unclip and stop, like all the shit that I like to do in my free time, it's just like
it's around.
It's here. You know what I mean? It's downstairs. The TV's here. My switch, whatever I'm gonna do, like go mess around in the garden or whatever. Like that's all here. And I know I've said this before on the podcast, and I've said it to people. Like if I'm 40 miles from home, I gotta get home.
Yeah, for real.
I'm not fucking calling someone.
Have you ever called someone ever?
Not because I have, for mechanical reasons.
Okay.
Yeah. Like chain off the bike, broken chain or whatever. I've called my wife a handful of times. I've never been like 50 miles from home and like cooked.
Yeah.
So cooked, so bonked that I can't get back. I can think of a couple rides where I bonked pretty hard, but I was like maybe 10 miles from the end of the ride.
Yeah.
So at least I like struggled for the last 10 miles. It was a hard 10 miles or whatever. But no, what about yourself?
No. And also my girlfriend's scared to drive on the highway. Yep. So if I was ever cooked anywhere, I'm like, well, guess it would just be funny to be like calling Uber to put the XL.
Yeah, you got to call an XL
to put your bike
in the bike in the back. Yeah,
and get you over to go home because you just exploded somewhere.
Yeah. And so that sort of goes to, and I think, obviously you can be like riding for too hard for too long and have that happen to you. But I think most of the time that happens to people because they're not fueling properly or like drinking
so then
water
that's
properly.
The next what do you eat before you ride? I guess it doesn't really matter whether it's a 1 hour or 2 hour ride because you're still preparing to like, or does it matter what you eat before?
Oh, I think it does matter somewhat. If let's say I'm doing a really, really early 1 hour ride, like before work or something, but I'm like, no, fuck, I'm still going to get out there at like 4:30 till 5:30, like in the morning, like stupid early. Then I'm not eating anything until I get home because I'm not really interested in eating anything at fucking 4 a.m.
Yeah, I'm not a big wake up immediately and eat type person either.
Me either. If I'm doing a sort of, let's say, 2-hour ride at 10 o'clock, I'm probably going to eat yogurt or oatmeal or waffles about 2 hours beforehand.
2 hours?
An hour and a half to 2 hours beforehand. I think it takes about 1 to 3 hours to like maximize your glycogen stores.
Yeah.
But making sure that you're getting something that's like easy to digest, right? So like I do a lot of quick oats. I, was sort of looking into this in anticipation of you coming on. They say white rice, bananas. I love white rice. I eat that shit all the time.
I love rice. I'm Dominican. I can't get enough rice.
I eat rice almost every night, like with dinner, but in the morning.
Well, white rice is hard in the morning.
Yeah, but like with honey. You ever done white rice with honey?
White rice with honey.
It's mad good. It's mad good. It might be basic as fuck.
That's crazy.
But it is fucking good. And honey is like a good sugar source.
For sure. Yeah, and
it's
much.
Natural. I'm also a big maple cereal. I'm a maple syrup fan.
So you put maple syrup on your rice? No.
Not as often as I do the honey, but I am
the
definitely...
fact that you've tried it at all.
I have tried it. Yeah. If I do oatmeal, I'm definitely adding a little bit of... Probably a banana and some maple syrup. Do you not like oatmeal?
I just need to. I need to. Because it's like in the morning, it is one of the most perfect kind of.
Well, you can also do like a plain bagel or toast, or like people talk about applesauce. It's got simple sugars. It's low in fiber. Yeah. The thing is fiber, when it comes to cycling, fiber gets in the way.
Well, because you mean like you might shit yourself while you're out?
Well, you might shit yourself for GI things, but the other problem is it's sort of getting in the way of how your body processes carbs. So the fiber is like prolonging the digestion of the carbs in your body. So like if you were to eat like a really high fibrous meal with like high carbs, you're not going to get those like easy to digest, quick glycogen stores in your muscles. It's going to like draw it out more.
I see.
So like if I'm eating 1 to 3 hours before a ride, oatmeal, that's different than like something that's higher in fiber. I don't know why, but I keep thinking of popcorn. I'm not going to have popcorn in the morning, but I like to snack on popcorn.
Like an apple.
Yes.
Sweet, but also super fibrous.
Super fibrous, and it's just like, it's obviously an apple's good for you. It's not like a bad food or anything. But the thing is, it's just like prolonging the digestion of the carbs, and like you want those carbs.
Yeah.
You want
as
them
fast as
fucking
possible.
now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there an advantage? Let's say you were doing a 4-hour ride. Yeah. Is there an advantage to eating fiber and then maybe? That's not how it works. Like you space out how the absorption of the carbs. I think so,
but I think you also at the same time need to make sure that like you're having stuff that isn't fibrous at the same time.
Yeah.
But for like a 4-hour ride, I don't know if I'm eating that much differently before. Maybe I'm having like a full cup of oatmeal with a full banana and some maple syrup as opposed to just the oatmeal.
Right, or a piece of toast or something.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then it comes down to fueling during the ride. You know what I mean?
So what's that? There's so many formulas.
Yeah.
Whatever grams of carbs per weight per protein or whatever, like you should have obviously not a lot because it's mostly carbs and sugars, but
protein is good to an extent because it helps you feel full. It helps you feel like satiated, right? But I'm not really looking to put things in my pocket or get stuff at gas stations or whatever that is high in protein.
Yeah.
Maybe in the middle of a ride, I'm going for like a peanut butter candy bar sort of thing, that has like
happens
high carbs and it's got a little bit of protein. But for me, it's more about the gummies or gels or.
Do you have a formula that you go by, or do you just go by like you just do a specific thing every time? You're not like measuring yourself and being like, okay, I weigh this much. So
no, I'm not measuring myself and saying I weigh this much. If I'm doing say a 4-hour ride, I'm trying to eat every 30 to 40 minutes. So my first bite is about 30 minutes into the ride.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about if I have carb mix in my bottles or anything.
Yeah.
Like let's just assume that I'm just running water in my bottles and I'm eating all my carbs. If it's a sunny, hot, warm day, I'm trying to take a sip every 10 minutes, even if it's the smallest sip in the world. But it's just like a little 10 minutes into the ride, boom, just to keep me sort of like topped off hydration wise.
Yeah.
And then let's say I have like those Cliff gels. It comes like 6, those like little blocks.
SIS gels or whatever.
Yeah. So the SIS gel is a little bit harder because I'm never doing half of a gel.
Right, because how do you store the rest?
Yeah, I'm just like doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Those are usually like 90 calories, 20-ish, 25 grams of carbs, depending, which I think is pretty solid.
Maybe those are like, instead of every 30 or 40, you're doing like every 45 to an hour.
Exactly.
With those.
With the Cliff blocks, I'm opening the package and having 3 of them. There are 6 blocks in a package. I'm having 3, and then I'm having the other 3 in the next half hour. But then also, like, I'm stopping at a gas station, and when I'm at the gas station, I'm putting something in my pocket, but I'm also eating something. Yeah. And that's usually when I try to, like, find something fun. I don't hate gels, but gels are, like, fucking boring. You know what I mean? Because sometimes they're just not good. So, like, I try to find...
Some of them are good.
Some are good, and they're getting better. What's your go-to gel?
Fuck, it's been so long.
You mentioned CIS, the Science and Sport ones.
Yeah, there was this.
Have you ever had the Morton ones?
No, there was this brand that, it came. They made the gels and they also made like a little pouch, and you unscrew the top of the pouch, and it was like, it was crazy.
But the pouch was like
never.
Oh yes.
What is that? What it's called?
Enervit maybe.
Or Enervit.
ENERVIT.
I don't know. Someone out there.
I've only had that one a couple times.
But that one like has a lot of. The other thing about, I guess, those things, they're good. I mean, like nutritional value. They have the right carb to sugar mix.
Right.
But then the other part of it that's like hard is that if you don't eat something solid before your bike ride and you start. Your stomach is going to hurt so bad when you start like drinking any of those things.
Right. And plus if you are crazy. Like having a bunch of Gatorade in your bottles and it's just like a lot of sugar. It's a lot of sugar sloshing around.
Yeah.
And also to me, the biggest thing with gels and goos or whatever it is, especially as someone that rides as much as I do, is the price point. They're just like so fucking expensive. I guess some of those gels are like $3 a pop.
Yeah.
And you can get a full bag of gummies at the gas station for less than $3.
My favorite snack on the bike is the waffle thing.
Like a Stroop waffle, like a honey stinger, or
the stinger is so good.
Yeah, those are so good. I totally agree.
I feel like that, and they're economical. I feel like, and that's to me, it feels like an in between of it's not a fast break,
right,
but it's also not like a gel. So more often than not, I'd have maybe like one gel and then those.
Yeah.
And you can eat half of it. I mean, it's kind of a mess, but you can eat half of it and put the
and
other
then put
half
it back in your
waffle,
pocket. Yeah, wrap it up. Yeah, true.
So you every 30, like I say, I just had waffles. Every 30 minutes, I'm eating a waffle.
Yeah, or half a waffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I
don't think I've ever eaten enough ever in the history of any time I've ever been on a bike ride.
I think that's very common because, at least like growing up playing recreational sports. Like I played baseball, I played basketball, I played a little bit of soccer. I was never eating shit during. No. And let's be honest, when I played basketball, I wasn't I wasn't good. I was sort of sitting on the bench, And while I was playing baseball, maybe I was eating sunflower seeds or whatever. It's a very different type of working out. It's not necessarily like long endurance based, unless you are playing 40 minutes in a basketball game in 4 quarters and you're running around the whole time, But it was always like, okay, you're going to eat before and then you're going to eat after because you're hungry, but it was never during. It took me a little bit of time to figure that out too. I think it was the second century that I ever did was probably the hardest I'd ever bonked. It was one of those times I was mentioning before. I was 9 miles away from home and I was going up a hill. I remember exactly where I was on Cars Pond Road and I was like, fucked.
Yeah.
Like my legs were not turning over anymore. And I think it was probably just because I didn't eat properly, And it sort of how much you eat and how much carbs you're putting in per hour depends on how hard you're riding.
Right.
You hear all of this 120 grams of carbs per hour. And 2 years ago, it was 90 grams of carbs per hour.
But it's also like...
That's for fucking
so
Pog.
Much.
That's for Pog and Jonas.
Do you understand like what you have to eat to like...
Yes.
Make that happen?
Yes.
It's kind of crazy.
That's a lot of stuff. That's like 4 servings of anything.
Yeah.
Like whether it be 4 gels or 4 Stroop waffles or whatever it is, a whole bag of Lifesavers gummies.
Also, not for nothing, and I'm sure everybody I'm like, people who say that you should eat that much, have you ever tried to eat and then climb right after? You just, it's just.
So I think that's where the gels come into those. That's when the gels are good.
When you're climbing more stuff.
Yeah, or towards the end of an event. Or the end of a ride. So I like to think of it as I try to start with a little bit more whole foods. And even if that is like gummies or like chews as opposed to gel, just because there's a little bit more to it. And then at the end of the ride, that's when I'm more powerhousing the gels.
Right.
And another good thing to sort of mix into there that I think helps me personally, and everyone has sort of a different tolerance, but is like caffeine. Like, have you ever messed with those gels that have caffeine?
Yeah, it's crazy. I've never been a coffee drinker ever in my entire life.
Right,
so it's one of those things where it's like, it would probably do something. It would probably be crazy for me. Like, I'd
It'd be too
be
much.
Like, start like
a lot of those gels or like the untapped maple syrup that has it. It's got like 45 milligrams of caffeine, which for someone who doesn't drink caffeine, I think would be a decent amount. What I've noticed is I think caffeine helps mitigate my pain tolerance. Or no, I'm sorry, it helps increase my pain tolerance or helps mitigate the feeling of pain.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you're just so hyped up you don't even think about it?
Exactly, yeah. And I've read some studies that say that like increased caffeine during endurance rides will help you feel fresher longer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense unless the ride is so long that that would have to be a long ride for the caffeine crash to kind of
and like especially if like, and that's the thing too, like, are you trying to keep on top of it with the caffeine? You know what I mean? Like, it depends. You're
having like one caffeine gel or thing a ride if it's that long enough of a ride where you're
I mean, there was a time where I was like only using the Science and Sport double espresso 150 milligrams of caffeine. And that was just bad. It was bad news, because it what it did is it killed my caffeine tolerance.
Yeah.
And so in the morning when I wanted one coffee wasn't making me
enough
feel.
Anymore.
It was like, I'm going to have 3.
Yeah,
and then it's like way too much,
Yeah.
So I think like, there are ways of like carrying some of this stuff with you too. Like, I bring maple syrup with me on rides sometimes. I've got like a metal flask that I started with that just like is like a 1 ounce flask, But then I also got more recently like one that's made by goo that is meant to like you put gel in it. And so it holds like 3 or 4 gels so that it can sit in your pocket. Or you put maple syrup in that, So like just to sort of help not have to stop as much, not have to spend as much while you're out there.
The maple syrup is interesting because it's kind of getting across the same thing. It's just like a boost of sugar and energy, maybe not.
But it's natural, right? It doesn't have any of those preservatives that those have in it, but it also naturally has electrolytes in it.
I didn't know
because
that
that's the other thing that like gels provide that like Nerds gummy clusters don't. Listen, I fucking love Nerds gummy clusters. I've got like 5 pounds of them downstairs, and I'm always eating them. But they don't have like the sodium or the added magnesium or anything that like these gels do. Maple syrup naturally has electrolytes in it.
That's cool.
It's like a good middle ground.
Yeah.
And there are maple syrup brands like Untapped and stuff too, but cycling's a fucking expensive hobby. Bikes are expensive.
I'm going to Stop and Shop and buying maple syrup, bro.
Me too. Me too. I got Walmart maple syrup downstairs. As long as it's legit maple syrup and not like the corn syrup stuff, but like actual maple syrup, then it is good.
So then we talk about time maybe on the bike and maybe training and then maybe eating. Is there any kind of targeted exercises like weight-wise that you're doing to complement your riding or not really, or it depends on.
So I do more of that in the winter.
Okay.
Yoga is a consistent thing for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Consistent. I try to do yoga almost every single day of the year, period, just because I feel better, whether or not it's about the bike. Just like the flexibility helps me. I also ride in a more aggressive position than most people. Yeah. And I think being flexible helps me hold that position for longer.
And that's something also to mention. If you're like me and you don't, you're like, oh, I want to listen to this to see. That is so important. I think maintaining, because you could have all the legs in the world, but if you can't stay on the bike for that long and you're trying to like race, for example, or just
Right.
beat a time previously, that's like, now you got to like stand up. Now you're not as aero. Now you're not pedaling as hard.
Yeah, you're
like,
adjusting.
That's one thing that I try to do during Z2 a lot is just hold
the position.
I just try to hold it for as long as I can. You know,
Yeah.
it might not work out every time because I might be more fatigued, but
Right.
You know.
And then bike fit has a lot to do with that too.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like if you don't have the proper fit, then you're not even able to hold it because you're like, oh fuck, my taint is numb.
It hurts
after 5 minutes or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and some of that has to do with like core strength, but yeah, during the winter, I'm doing a lot more like leg workouts, whether it be like squats.
Yeah.
And I'm doing more core focused stuff too. So like planks or raised planks with like little bit of weights and stuff. I actually have like a bunch of saved reels on my Instagram.
Yeah,
just like privately saved reels of whether they be things that I'm supposed to be doing right before I ride, which I'm not as good at, like activation workouts with like rubber bands and stuff and like hip openers and stuff. I'm not as good with that. I think that yoga sort of serves the same purpose if I'm doing more of like a pliable, like active type of stretching, you know what I mean, before a ride. But there's definitely like, and if you don't have access to a gym, it could just be squats. It can be body weight type of stuff, you know, like wall sits are another one that I do a lot in the winter. Just squats, even if it's just with like I've got like a 15-pound kettlebell. I've got a 10-pound dumbbell, a couple of 5s, a couple of 3-pounders that I don't really use that much, but you know, it really depends on what you're looking for, like physically too. Like when you look at yourself in the mirror, you know, are you like, oh, I wish my shoulders were more full, or you're like, no, my upper body is, I'm fine with that. I'm just looking to increase the strength in my legs. Then it is like sort of squats,
and
wall
targeted
sits,
more towards whatever
targeted
you want.
leg stuff.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, cyclists sort of traditionally have strong legs and like spindly upper bodies, right? Like no upper arms.
But again, we're not.
No, we're not them.
And that look is
it's whack.
Ass.
Yeah, and I'm not climbing in the Alps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't need to like. So like, you don't need the pound.
I don't need to like make sure that my arms are rail thin.
Right.
I want to be overall physically fit.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to have strong arms and a strong upper body and a strong core. Sure, that might not benefit me on the bike all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to be like, you know, when I look in the mirror, I want to be happy with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, for sure.
And part of that progression is like, you know, maybe doing some upper body workouts, you know? Like I'm doing, even this time of year, I'm doing pull-ups, I'm doing push-ups.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of integrating those into my yoga workouts, maybe sort of like at the end of a yoga workout if it's in the morning, or if I'm doing like a stretching session, like more of a static stretching session after a ride.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm starting that with like some push-ups or some pull-ups. I've got one of those like bar things that just like hangs in your...
Yeah, and you kind of just...
Yeah, you hang from it. I mean, that's another thing, like grip strength is
important.
important.
It also helps. That's the thing. It's like, not for nothing, but you can, again, the position. You can, like, you're less kind of like...
Yeah, you ever held an arrow position and you feel it in your triceps? You know what I mean? Like, if you had stronger triceps, you would feel it less.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, like, after a ride and recovery is important too. So like, are you focused on what you're doing after a ride? Are you eating anything right after? Is that another question that you have?
Yeah, I feel like after I just try to eat like a regular meal. That's probably more carbs heavy. And it also depends on the time of the day. Like if I rode now and I had already eaten breakfast or something, like I might go on a bike ride and I might come back and do like a yogurt, granola, strawberries or something. And then I would probably eat like regular dinner later. When I'm going to eat. Right, exactly.
Right.
So that kind of depends. But yeah, do you have anything in particular that you like?
Yes. Actually, almost too regimented after a ride. I'm more like regimented.
Every time?
I'm more regimented after a ride, what I put into my body, than what I am before.
Yeah.
So after I do like a recovery drink. And so like basically it's a protein shake.
Yeah.
Right. And so like the simplest version is like a chocolate milk. And it can just be chocolate milk from the store. It doesn't need to be like a scratch recovery or a whey protein thing or anything. But what chocolate milk has is it has a 3-to-1 carb to protein ratio. And so you're getting the carbs to restore your glycogen levels, but you're also getting the protein that helps your muscles recover.
Right.
Because you want your muscles to build.
And also that protein locks in essentially the muscle. So like if you're working out and your legs are getting stronger, you need to like...
You need to get it in there to get them to continue to be stronger, right?
That makes sense.
So like chocolate milk is like the sort of
what brand of chocolate milk?
Fairlife.
I'm gonna look it up to see
because it's ultra filtered, and so it's slightly lower in
ultra filtered.
Yeah, it's slightly lower in lactose. I personally do not have a lactose problem, but I know a lot of people that do. And,
I see what you're saying.
And it lasts in my fridge longer. Because like I'm not a milk drinker. You know, I'm not like drinking milk for fun.
Yo, if you're
a milk drinker, you're a fucking psychopath.
Also, this like if you're over the age of like 19,
yeah,
and you drink milk
people
consistently,
like just like drink
crazy.
milk with dinner. You know what I mean? I know.
If you're having meatloaf or something at home, spaghetti,
yeah, and you're eating milk, and you're drinking milk with it.
God, you might be built different.
So that's what I'm putting in right after a ride.
Okay,
is
13 grams. Wait a minute, 13 grams of carbohydrates
per serving.
Fairlife. Oh no, about 6 servings per container.
Yeah, but it's probably 13 per serving.
Yeah.
Is that like the core power Fairlife, or is it just the regular? Because they
chocolate reduced fat.
That's what I drink. Yeah.
Lactose free.
Yeah, that's exactly what I drink.
Ultra. Here's your stats.
Ultra filtered.
Here's your stats, buddy.
That's right. 140 calories, 4.5 grams of carbs, 4.5 grams of fat, 13 grams of carbs, and 13 grams of protein. So that is a 1-to-1 ratio. That's not a 3-to-1 ratio.
Oh, I guess it is.
Yeah.
You lied.
Yeah, I did lie.
Dissuading everybody.
Yeah, maybe it's a regular chocolate milk that's a 3-to-1 carb to protein ratio. I'll be honest, I do 1 cup of chocolate milk and 1 scoop of Tailwind Recovery.
And what's that?
So it has the same carb to protein ratio, but what the chocolate milk doesn't have, it adds like amino acids and different stuff
and
like
all this
that.
other stuff. Got you.
Different things that are anti-inflammatory, that sort of help recover. That's what I'm drinking right after a ride. I'm talking like within a half hour of when I'm done.
Really?
That's the best time to restore and rebuild those glycogen levels.
Do you think if you wait too long, well, I mean, I guess doing it is better than never doing it.
Correct.
But if you wait too long, you're kind of like...
It's less of a return.
Also, probably because if you're doing other stuff during the day, you kind of want to get back. Let's say like you're doing a bike ride, you want to get it all in and then feel more normal.
Yeah, because sometimes if you're not fueling right after a ride, you're just fucking done, right?
Yeah.
You go out I've experienced it. I go and I ride early in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to ride from 6 to 10.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be super productive the rest of the day. And then I ride from 6 to 10 and I'm like, I'm fucking toast.
Yeah, it's over.
And so I think drinking a recovery drink, whether that be, sort of something that's formulated to be recovery or something like chocolate milk is better right away.
Yeah.
And so that's right after a ride. And then, maybe I'm stretching, showering, whatever, coming back to normal. And then I'm doing something like a rice bowl or... not a smoothie. Smoothie is one of the suggestions that I had written down, but I'm not
Why
really.
Not? I love a smoothie. I think.
Then that's great. I'm just not a smoothie.
It's just
person.
not very. I think it's not. The only thing you miss out with on a smoothie is that there's really no protein.
Sure, unless you're putting a protein powder into it.
Right. You're mostly just kind of sugar.
Right.
Carbs.
Fruits, oats, maybe.
Fruits, oats. I just pulled it up.
But it is customizable, which I think is nice about a smoothie. You can put whatever you want in it.
I'm pulling it up just so that it's stated here.
Yes.
So that we know. I was 10th in my age group.
This is Marfa 2020.
Marfa 2020. What are we? This is 5. This is maybe 2.
Okay.
Maybe 2.
Yep.
10th in my age group. I was 55th of 136 people.
Yep.
And it took me 3 hours and 27 minutes to do 62 miles and 2,600 feet of climbing.
Yeah, that's solid. That's a
and
good ride.
my 50K and 100K times, or whatever, like the way there and the way back, are only off by 20 seconds, which is kind of interesting given I didn't really fuel or anything, because it meant that I went at the same pace that I came. I wasn't like
first
more
half and the second
cooked,
half.
although I felt destroyed coming back. I felt like I'm gonna cramp and I'm gonna die on this bike.
I mean, I guess like elevation could have something to do with that. Wind could have something to do with that too.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also hot.
Right.
Even in October, it was very hot that day.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we're gonna wear this, and because the race starts in the morning, and then by mid race, I was like, I'm such an idiot, bro. This shit it's too hot.
Too many layers.
There's just too much stuff in my pockets now.
Right. And then you're having to hydrate even more because you're carrying more with you, or you're sweating out more, you know.
And you're hot. So that's my goal.
Your goal is faster than 320. 323 or whatever.
Oh yeah, 327, whatever it was.
Yeah. So that would be my suggestion is like during that ride, make sure you're, you know, sipping on that water every 10 minutes. If that water has carb mix in it, then you're...
So what is Scratch? I know I could just Google this, but I never have.
It's just making Gatorade.
Okay.
It's just making Gatorade.
But it's like a powder that essentially makes Gatorade.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember...
It's a little bit... The formulation is a little bit different because they're, you know... I feel like Gatorade obviously is a very successful brand. You know, it's been around forever. It is sugar water.
And not for nothing. Have you ever had a Gatorade when you didn't think you had Gatorade in a bottle? Like you're biking and you're like, oh, I'm so thirsty. And then you have Gatorade and you're like, oh my God, this is like...
It's so sweet.
But it's like crack. It's so good, too.
It is mad good, yeah. So Scratch basically is the same thing. They're adding some more amino acids to it. They're adding a different type of electrolytes.
It was just funny. Me and Shaka were riding during the race, and we stopped. There's like a turnaround point. And You guys want to fill up your bottles? Yeah, I'll fill my bottles. You want some Scratch? I'm like... Bro, I don't know what that is. I'm gonna leave it to you. I'm gonna leave it to y'all. I just want some water, please.
It's not that much different than any sort of carb mix.
Okay, cool.
Any sort of Gatorade. Even if you were making stuff at home, I know people that just like make their own carb mix at home.
Yeah.
Which is like sugar, maybe some maltodextrin
powder, and just make it. Just put more water than
2 summers ago.
Whatever.
I was buying Gatorade powder.
Yeah.
Because I was sick of spending the money on Scratch.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this.
Is that it?
This is Scratch Labs. That's exactly what's in it. And so I was buying Gatorade, and instead, like it might have said, "Hey, do like 2 scoops for like 700 ml bottle." I was only doing 1 scoop.
Sheesh, this is expensive.
Yes, that's the problem. It's too expensive. The big thing of Gatorade powder is like $10.
Yeah,
and it's like 30 servings.
And if you go like BJ's or something, you can get it even crazy.
Even bigger.
It's like insane.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Like I can't really be bothered to like buy Scratch for my bottles and goo gels for my pocket and cis and fucking so like I'm sort of it's sort of always an evolving journey, if you will, as to like what I'm eating. I'm really big on those Nerds gummy clusters now. They have like the same exact carb ratio as
so
every single gel going, you know, and they're way fucking cheaper. So like what else sort of like comes to mind in terms of like the biggest questions that you have, not only training from now until then, but about like the event in itself? Are you trying to do other big rides beforehand? Like, do you want to do a 4-hour ride? Do you want to do a 3-hour ride in August?
I feel like that was the thing, is I think I'm trying to just work my way up to that. I think I'm starting with at least committing to doing like, you know, I think for that part is where I think the mileage does matter. It's just building yourself up and, again, getting your body comfortable with doing this amount of mileage or whatever. Obviously, it varies, but I think before then I would probably try to do, even if it's just a Swift ride, to simulate that amount of time, that intensity. And also, that race is mostly pretty flat, gradual up, a big kind of climb, then you come back down, and then you have to turn around. So then you do the big climb again, and then you come back down. So something that's around that mileage and that kind of climbing that then I'm like, oh, I could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
well, you should also like experiment with the fueling during that too.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
And just seeing how that goes.
Right. And even experimenting with certain types of fueling beforehand. Like, because who knows, maybe Scratch doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, it's not.
You know? You know, like, so like, or whatever it is. Like maybe Gatorade is too sweet, or maybe you try the Gatorade and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I feel so much better because I'm like, you know, putting in carbs. I don't think it's unnecessary to put carbs in your body for a 1-hour ride. But the thing is if you're only riding for an hour and you're drinking carbs 40 minutes into the ride, that shit's not kicking in until later.
Right. You might as well just eat something afterwards to refuel and then just keep it moving.
So for me, when I'm riding for like an hour and a half or less, I'm generally not eating much or putting carb mix in my bottles.
Yeah.
Anything 2 hours or more, I'm fueling
paying
during
attention.
The ride.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not riding super hard. Also, it makes it a little. I like to fucking stop at a gas station. I like these like little country stores in the middle of nowhere. Like I love them. The people are so fucking weird. They're always like, "How far are you riding your bike?" You know? And
they're always amazed.
Some of the people are super nice. You know, they're like just like little small businesses in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
you know, and like
sure.
I've found some really shit ones that I'll never go back to again. But I found some absolute staples that like I love to go to.
Yeah, they become part of the ride now.
Yeah, you know, and like there is definitely a. You know, you don't want to stop as much. There's a validity to that because if you're doing a 3.5 hour ride out in Marfa, Texas, you know, you're not going to want to stop every 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes stopping every hour and a half on like just like a training ride is nice, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think I stopped when I did that ride. I mean, not that I feel like I needed to per se, but it's also one of those things,
You were stopping at the fuel station to get water, and that was about it.
Basically, there might have been like 2 stops each way with somebody like, yo, you want to get water or whatever, and going and doing.
Are they giving you food too?
I think I don't know. It might have all changed since like at least a little bit or slightly since I've done it last time, but yeah.
Even if it's just like a Rice Krispie treat or they're handing out like half peanut butter sandwiches
that you're eating. Like that you would eat like bacon and eggs before a ride, unless there was so much time. Like if the ride was at 10 and you woke up at 7, you wouldn't eat regular breakfast. No,
the fat content of bacon and eggs is the thing that turns me off the most.
Yeah,
because I feel like there's absolute no benefit from the fat.
Yeah.
In terms of riding.
Right.
I mean, obviously having a well-balanced macronutrients with fat, protein, and carbs are important.
Yeah.
I know that my body needs carbs more than anything else. Protein helps me feel full. Fat makes me feel greasy and groggy. Me personally.
And then also
the day before a big ride.
That's what I was gonna say.
The day before,
do you carb up or calorie? What are they like? You
carbo load,
or just eat so much stuff so that your body just is overly.
So what I've noticed is I won't do like a big carbo load meal the night before a big ride.
Yeah.
For me, it's the morning before. So say I'm gonna do a huge ride on Sunday, Saturday morning breakfast should be.
And why do you find that? You don't think that's too far away from you think it's still in your system?
Yeah, I think the glycogen stores are still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's a big lunch. The problem with a huge dinner for me is it affects my sleep.
Yeah. And also you probably affects like your bowel movements. So now before the ride, you're probably, or during the ride actually.
And I'm so nervous about like getting that like morning shit done before a big ride, you know, especially because like if I'm at home, it's okay. It's
fine.
It's good to be regular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm here. I'm sleeping in my own bed. I've got my own bathroom. When I'm traveling, my fucking bowels are all over the place. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm in a new place. Oh, fuck. I had to get up at 4 because we're driving 2 hours to the start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it really depends. And so I think that's another thing that like that big meal, but it also depends on your body. I recently watched a video with Remco training.
Yeah.
I think it's just like his own YouTube channel. And he was going to go out for 7 hours. And they showed what he was eating before that ride.
Yeah.
It was the biggest fucking breakfast I've ever seen in my life. It was like half a cup of oatmeal.
Yeah.
Half a cup of yogurt, a cup of oatmeal, toast, eggs, coffee, orange juice.
Oh my God.
It was wild.
See, like the thing, like I think I could agree with bacon, but eggs, man, it's just such a good sort. It's just good.
I think eggs definitely have that protein, and they're way less greasy than the bacon.
Yeah.
To me, the bacon would make my sweat feel greasy. So you know what I mean? It's like it would be like not quite meat sweats, but that would be the feeling. I'd be like, oh, you know. I generally don't eat a lot of bacon though.
Yeah.
If you're someone that eats,
because it's just 7. Like I mean, again, this is an extreme 7 hours. It's like you just.
No, I know.
It would just be impossible to just eat carbs, I think. And
it would be.
Strictly.
Yeah.
I mean, coffee and orange juice at the same time is demonic. The guy must have acid reflux. There's no way. But it's just like that early in the morning. I'm just like, but just eating, and that's the other thing. It's just like, just eating carbs would be, I do remember going on a bike ride and I think it was like 4 or 5 hours. I forget where it was, and like being like, I'm gonna stop at this McDonald's.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get
during
some
the
nuggets
ride.
and fries.
I don't know. After the ride, I'm
and you
all
gotta
about
chill afterwards for like half an hour or so because it's like you just
right.
It's just
I'm all about a Big Mac after a big ride. During, I don't know about that. During, I'm really Rice Krispie treats, gummies, Uncrustables if you can find them at a gas station, peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah,
it really needs to be that sort of high carb. I mean, I recently had one of those like applesauce packets.
Yeah,
those are pretty good.
They come like on a gel pack or in like the cup?
No, it's like a packet. Like it's similar to what the cup like we would get like when we were in elementary school, but now they're in like squeeze pouches.
Oh wow!
For kids' lunches though, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like a pretty. It's not priced like $3 each for cyclists, but it's also not as cheap as like those Mott's cups, which are probably. You know, I mean, sure, you could put one of those in your back pockets. It'd just be harder to eat.
Kind of crazy,
Yeah. It would be like weird and bulky back there. Yeah. But applesauce is another good one. You know, simple sugars, low in fiber. Because the apple has been processed now, and the fiber is sort of the fiber content has gone. Because it's been sort of ground down or processed. Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big part of it. Is just finding out what worked for me before and after the ride, and also the timing. Because if I'm riding at 2 p.m., I would have already probably eaten breakfast, which consists of bacon and eggs. I think that. I
mean, but if you're eating breakfast at 8 a.m., 6 hours before a 2 p.m. ride,
it's not. Yeah.
I think you're fine.
Yeah.
It's just I wouldn't do heavy fat content 2 hours before a ride.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just gonna make me feel groggy.
This all makes me feel like I'm gonna crush.
Because you have more knowledge now.
You shouldn't do it. That's all I ever did.
Well,
I would go on a ride with you and Brian or whatever, or for like the NBX ride or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, eat a bacon and egg sandwich and some French fries like an hour or two before. Then I go on the ride and I'm like, kind of, not bad. Given I was doing everything wrong.
But imagine if you did like, instead of French fries, you did like a sweet potato.
Yeah.
Like a baked sweet potato or like in the air fryer.
Less of that fat.
You know what I mean? Less of like the oil, but still, because potatoes are great in carbs. I eat mad sweet potato. Yeah. Like sweet potato with rice.
Like just like a baked sweet potato? Or you chop them up, whatever?
Either. I'll do like...
Your rice combinations.
Rice goes with everything.
But rice and sweet potato, and to think about there being syrup on there or like whatever else is nuts.
Yeah. Listen, I don't have like a refined palate, okay? I'm not like... I don't think that I've got like the best taste in food or anything.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Dried fruit's another good one. Sometimes they're high in fiber, but like you can get those like fruit strips. Yeah. You know, sort of like the hipster.
Or fruit snacks.
Yeah, fruit snacks. Dude, Mott's fruit snacks. Ooh, it's like 80 calories in a pack and 20 grams of carbs. You can't beat that. You get a whole box of those at Walmart or something for like $12.
Yeah, I gotta figure it out.
Yeah, so let's try to, you want to make a goal to do like a longer 3-hour ride in a couple months or something?
Yeah, I mean, a couple months, we could do a 3-hour ride.
Between now and then? Yeah. And then we can go out. Maybe we talk about what the fueling is during the ride.
Yeah, we'll do something in July. I think by then I just started back on and I'll be more kind of on pace, on schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So let's do that, and we can talk about, maybe we'll follow up on the podcast about it and stuff. Yeah. And see how you've been feeling.
By then it'll be tour time.
It will be tour time. That's right.
Yeah.
What do we think? Coming out of the Dauphiné, do you think there's any chance that anyone can beat Pog?
I hope so. I
hope so too.
For the sake of, not that that's all that the tour's about. Obviously, there's all these amazing breakaways that happen, and the green jersey and the polka dots. But it, in terms of just like general classification, oh my God, it looks.
I know. I like to have the hope that Jonas has a month to continue to train.
He also hasn't raced really, so given that he was looking pretty good.
He was looking pretty good, but there were a couple times where Pog still just rode away from him. Rode away.
But that's not like I was
the Dauphiné is not
it.
the tour.
Yeah, but it's also like what struck me the most was not that he was riding away, because that's kind of always his vibe. He always has these crazy, punchy, aggressive attacks.
Right.
It's that he didn't even look like he was really going.
What about in that last stage? Did you see when he got the bottle? He got the bottle and rode past every single person.
And he's doing it like even at the end when he's not even like, it's not even like a he's just kind of like
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like he's stretching at the end. That I think that's the scariest part of it, is that he doesn't even look like he's really at his limit. But again, he's also been pretty good at like faking.
He has been.
Or like he's not a real like struggle face
no, he's
kind
not.
of rider
he's
anyway.
Not.
So who knows?
Yeah, not until he's actually cooked. But that happened in the tour a couple years ago when he was like, "That's it, I'm dead."
Yeah.
That, there's that clip of him saying that, and he looks dead.
Miserable.
His eyes are like sunken.
Yeah.
You know, and as a guy that's like sort of smiling European party boy kind of vibes all the time, you know. I mean, I hope it's exciting. I will never complain about him being too good.
Yeah.
I think we're witnessing greatness, and I think that's very fun to be able to be like, hey, I was watching cycling when the best cyclist of all time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to that. We will, in 5 or 10 years when he's done, we will look back on this and be like, holy fucking shit.
That was insane.
But do I want him in yellow from stage 2 to stage 21? Absolutely fucking not.
I don't think it will.
Absolutely fucking not.
It's one of those things. It'll be like a sprint stage, and then the break. The first week will probably almost be a bit of a like GC wash. Not completely. Like they'll keep it close, but hopefully, that doesn't happen.
And then, you know, Jonas is a smaller rider, end of the tour.
And the teams are kind of a little different this time around, too.
Yeah, very
so
different.
It's,
I mean,
I don't know.
UAE has so much drama inside the team, I think, and Visma seems very, very focused.
Yeah, for sure.
There's weird drama at UAE all the time. I mean, even during the Giro, there was weird drama.
Yeah, of who they want to actually be the person to win the race.
And they thought like Ayuso was going to be there to... And then Del Toro comes, and Del Toro's great, but now Ayuso might go into the tour thinking, well, fuck.
Yeah, I can fucking...
Yeah.
Ayuso's always fighting with somebody.
Always.
Though. Like,
always. Ayuso and Almeida with Pog are just... It doesn't make sense. I wish they were on different teams.
The Ayuso Almeida fights during the tour are so funny.
They're so good. Because they both want to be the second best rider on the team with the best rider in the world. And then, they're always getting mad. And then, I mean... Say what you will about Del Toro at the end of the Giro. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
To see someone from Mexico, 21 years old, absolutely crushing. You know,
it's crazy.
There are not enough sort of cyclists from this side of the world, especially like North America, I guess, you know? Like you've got some American cyclists, there are some Mexican cyclists. There's a good amount of like people from South America, Colombia and stuff. But yeah, it's so European dominant and like... Fuck, like it was so good to see him riding the way that he did, and him and Carapaz fighting at the end, and then letting Simon letting Simon win because Simon crushed, but it still was like,
he kind of blew up at the end.
Yeah.
Also, that's the other thing. Pog is he's just winning. Like, has anyone raced this much before the tour and won this much?
No, because even like Eddie Merckx wasn't doing it the same way. Like he was focusing, I think most years, like he would just do the classics or then he would just do the tour.
Yeah.
He wasn't like doing
That's
it
the
all.
other unprecedented
Pog's
thing.
hit rate right now is over 50%.
Yeah, it's scary.
He's won over 50% of the races that he has started, including stages of day races. Yeah.
So crazy.
Like absolutely wild. And then to go to like to do as well as he did in like Roubaix and all that other stuff. Like he is just, I think he's super exciting. For, I don't know, a week ago or so, I thought maybe he was going to have a little bit of a villain turn. There's that clip that came out where he said, fuck you to Jonas.
I mean...
I'd be okay with a little bit of a rivalry.
That's fine. I think, the rivalry is what I don't like is the people who just, anytime it's like anything happens. And again, I'm starting to get there, but it's like, watching for 4 or 5 years. Anytime someone does anything extraordinary, it's like they're juicing.
Oh my god!
And it's just like, come on, bro. Like it's just like technology.
We can thank fucking Lance Armstrong for that piece of shit. He made everyone, especially in America, think that cycling was just doping.
And it's just that's the only part that I don't like whenever people are like, oh my god. I'm like, I think the rivalry stuff probably makes it better, and they should be rivals because it's like what 2 to 3 or something. Like Jonas has 2 wins in a row. I think. It was Pog,
Jonas, Pog.
So it's kind of like, it's cool. They could go back and forth, and I think that's awesome for the sport.
Right. And I want them to respect each other, obviously, but I also want them to kind of hate each other.
Yeah.
Like I think hating each other is good. And it's also interesting because their personalities seem very different.
Yeah. Also, Jonas always looks just so sad and defeated.
He does.
I don't know why. He's just like
a little
boy.
Sad boy.
Yeah,
he is an emo boy. Yeah. And Pog is like techno, EDM, European, perfect. Yeah. Any other things you want to chat about before we get out of here? Any things that we didn't mention? No, you can say no. That's fine.
No, there's nothing. I was just thinking, and then meditating on the feet.
Yeah, as Harry sort of walks away. He just doesn't want to be up here anymore. Do you want anyone to follow you on Strava or anything like that? Do you care about that shit? No.
What? You want to see my pathetic little Zone 2 rides? If you want to follow me on it, I mean, it's the same on everything. It's at Norlan. If you want to follow me on Instagram for photo art stuff, or follow Salon for
please follow the Salon
for
PVD.
The lost and found.
It's a great account. The Salon is a great place. I love the Salon. I don't think I've been there since you've been involved, but
oh yeah, I don't even want to be there. I'm too old, too loud. It's too loud.
Too old, too loud. A lot of work, but yeah, Norlan, but Salon PVD.
The Salon PVD.
And maybe we'll do a follow up in a month or so.
Yeah.
Get a ride in. Talk about the tour.
And I'll probably be at some NBX.
Great.
Weekly stuff at some point.
We got to give a shout out to BSP.
BSP, shout out BSP.
Podcasting partner in crime. He does all the audio for all of this. You mentioned NBX, the official bike shop of It's Just a Hill.
Yep.
You can join our WhatsApp chat. We're talking about pro cycling over on the Discord if you join the Discord. And if you like this video, like it, subscribe, whatever the fuck you do here on YouTube. It's important. It helps the podcasting platform, all that stuff. Share it with your bike friends. See you on the back roads. Thank you, Norlan.
Peace. Thank you for having me.
Bye. We are It's Just a Hill, a cycling club that promotes inclusion, judgment-free, with no gatekeepers. Focused on creating content from behind the handlebars to in the studio, It's Just a Hill is producing videos and podcasts to spread the message that cycling is for everyone. We are focused on reminding everyone that riding your bike can help you overcome any obstacle, because after all, it's just a hill.
Decaf left, regular right. Decaf left, regular right. It's very challenging work.